So Siemens released a new line of HMIs recently, namely a new line of the comfort panels, the unified comfort panels they are called. And one big thing about them, other than the fact that they're completely re-engineered devices, is the support for the Industrial Edge platform. And that is the exciting bit I wanted to dedicate this video and maybe future videos too. If you don't know what the deal is with the Industrial Edge platform, check out my short video, link to which you can find in the description below. If you haven't heard about the unified comfort panels, check James's series, again, link to which you can find in the description below. What I'm going to show you now is how to turn your panel into an edge device, and then how to deploy a performance insight app that will allow us to get data out of the runtime and use it on an easy to configure dashboard. So let's do it. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, we need to actually enable the edge support on our comfort panel. We will be using this comfort panel that is here behind me, but for the simplicity, I will be connecting to it with the smart client. So the unified comfort panels, they out of the box have something called Smart Server. You can enable it in the settings. I will show you in a moment where it is. And this then allows you to use a smart client application to basically control your comfort panel remotely. So for this, I will be using again smart client. This is the IP address that my panel got from the DHCP server. Let's connect, let's use my password. Yeah. So if you want to do maybe the same thing I did one day, use the smart client, smart server, you enable it in network and internet. So you go to network and internet, you go remote connections, and you take this box, put a password here, and you should be able to then connect using the smart client application. The smart client application gets installed with TI Portal. So if you have TI, you will probably already have smart client installed on your PC. Okay, so let's go to apps. Let's go to Semantic Edge. And the only thing you need to do to enable Edge on your device is to take this box. And if you read this message, Semantic Edge does require a license, and you can find more about this license under this link. But taking this box will basically enable Semantic Edge on your unified comfort panel. Okay. The next thing that we will need to do is we will need to enable ourselves some users. So we'll basically need to add ourselves users, and we can do this inside TIA. So if we go to TI Portal, I already have TI running. In TI, I'm going to add myself a new unified comfort panel. Mine is a 12-incher. Okay. Okay, a panel was added now. And if we go to security settings, to users and roles, we can add ourselves a user. I'm going to call this user Semantic. And now I'm going to add it a password. And I'm going to add him to all the groups, although I really only need HMI administrator, and I should be fine. Okay. Here I might also want to maybe add some things on the screens, because I will want to get the data from the runtime. I won't be doing anything in terms of connecting this to a PLC. This is a completely different topic. In this video, we will be just getting data from the runtime, and this data could be internal tags from the runtime. It could be the tags that are that the runtime is getting from the PLC as well. For me, I would just go here, show tags, and just add myself some tags. So tags here, test tag 1 and test tag 2. And they are both internal tags. So now if I go back to my screen, tag table, I can just drag and drop maybe these guys here just to be able to change them. You know what? Maybe actually add a slider. and let's just connect it to a tag, to test tag 1. Okay, so we will just be able to change these two values and change the first value with a slider. Now let's download our HMI. Yeah, Ethernet, and we go again 192.168.0.39. Connect. Yeah, load. Yeah, loading completed. This should be all good. We should be now able to start runtime. Yeah, so that's a runtime. And we can change these two values are interconnected. Okay, so that's it for now. Now we enable the Edge platform. So how do you actually deploy the apps? Well, if you use your favorite browser, but make sure it's Google Chrome, we will be going to https 192.168.0. And now we will be using the same user that we just created. So this is exactly why we needed to create user and download the project in TI. Yeah. So that's your edge management on the HMI device on the unified comfort panel. As you can see, currently we have no apps. Now the apps, it's a completely different topics. You know, Siemens will be releasing apps, but you can create your own apps. So a lot of different things could be done here. For us, we will just go to the support site now. Okay, go to Performance Inside Unified. There you go, Performance Insight for Unified Comfort Panel. There are more apps available on the support side, so if you're interested, maybe just go there and look for the apps that you're interested in. But for us, we will be only looking at Performance Insight. So if you read all this information, it will tell you what it can do, but it will also give you the download. So let's download the zip file. Now, when you go through this download, it will obviously ask you to log in, and then it might ask you to confirm the export regulations information. So you just go through the form, fill it out, and then click continue, and your download should start. Okay, so now our zip file has downloaded. We can extract it. Inside, you'll actually find two apps, the Data Service app and the Performance Insight app. And the reason for it is the Performance Insight is like your front end. It allows you to create dashboards and all these nice things, but then it needs to get the data from somewhere. So this is what the Data Service app is for. So Data Service will actually establish connection to your HMI runtime, get the data from the runtime, and put it in its own database. Then this database can be used by different apps to get the data for dashboarding purposes, but maybe also for alarming purposes. So if you go inside, we have the README file, the open source README files and sources, and there you go, Data Service app and Performance Insight app. And we do need to install both of them. So if we now go back to our Industrial Edge Management, we go Install Offline. Here we can select the option to browse our local repositories. We go Downloads, Performance Insight, Data Service. Install. Yeah, so you can see that it's installing now. And we can really simultaneously start the install of the second one as well. So browse, Performance Insight, and again install. Now we have one application that's installing, the other one is queued. All we need to do now is wait for these to finish. Okay, so the installation might take a moment, so maybe you'd like to grab yourself a cup of coffee, but when it's finished, this is what we should see. So completed, and now you can see we have two apps running, two apps installed on our unified comfort panel. If you click on them, it should take you to the role designated web service. So the first thing I opened is the data service. As I already mentioned, the data service will be used to extract data from the runtime and put it in data services own database so it can be used by other applications. So first thing we need to do, we need to define the connection to the unified runtime, and this is already done for us. So as you can see, it's using OpenPipe. The OpenPipe path is already piped in here, so we don't need to define this connector. All we need to do is we need to define which tags from the HMI we are interested in. So here we can create first variable either by clicking this or add variable. We are selecting the adapter. This is the only adapter available to us. This is the one that was predefined here on the left hand side in the connectors. Now we need to define the tag alias, let's call it, because it's not the tag name that exists in HMI, it's the tag name that we will be using in here on the Edge platform. So for us it could be anything, but let's still call it tag 1, but the actual name, oh sorry, it's the other way around actually. The tag is test tag 1, and the name that we want to use in the applications is put here, so this might be tag 1 for us. The data type, we selected an integer, so it could be int16, and the unit, well, there is no unit really. Let's just put it as RPM, it could be non-applicable, anything. Okay, so we create ourselves test tag 1, we're going to add test tag 2 now, test tag 2, again int16 for us, and this might be degrees Celsius. Okay, so now we can add these two tags. You know what, actually, if this is RPM, I'm gonna call it speed, and if this is Celsius, well, why don't I call it temperature? Yeah, makes much more sense. Now in the aspects, we have speed with temperature. I guess we could call it motor, and we will add ourselves speed and temperature to this aspect. So now we have an aspect, it's called motor, it has speed, temperature, but they are actually tags called test tag 1 and test tag 2. And that's all that we need to do here in the data service configurator. If we go back to the Industrial Edge Management System, let's now go to the Performance Insight app. So the Performance Insight again is the app that allows us to create dashboards based on the data that exists in the data service app. Yeah, agree. Successfully registered, that's fine. So here we have settings, configurations where you can define KPIs. So if you are interested maybe calculating some key performance indicators like quality, like performance, you could go here, add yourself a KPI, define a KPI name, test KPI, unit will be test, and here you would just punch things like what was it, speed, let's say, divided by temperature. Doesn't make any sense, but the system will allow us to do this, and basically the test KPI will be then available as the result of this calculation everywhere inside the Performance Insight. So we can do some calculations on this end as well. The data doesn't need to exactly come in the format that we wanted directly from the HTML. We could run some calculations on this end of the platform. So now if you go back to my plant, this is where I can start adding dashboards. You can have up to 5 dashboards. Dashboard name is going to be overview. Okay, time range day, so it will be showing me the data from today. And now this is, let's wait, I'll show you later. Here we can create some widgets. Okay, so we have 6 widgets available: diagrams, value, Gantt, diagrams, gauge, pie, and heat map. The easiest one to use will be gauge for us. Let's have a gauge for temperature, calculation period. So this is actually used for that. So sorry, let's select the prompt. I'll show you in a moment. Yeah, so it was temperature. Yeah, choose. This is used for the aggregation. So if here I say the calculation period is 1 minute, Then in the next step, I say the aggregation is average. It's going to calculate and display the average for the last minute. Okay, or I could show just the last value. It will depend on what you're actually looking at. The aggregation will be different for different values. It will be different for energy, it will be different for power. It always depends what you are actually interested in. Okay, for me, the average of temperature over last minute makes perfect sense. But maybe, if you were interested in looking actually at a motor, you might be interested in the maximum value maybe in the last hour, and that's set a notification so that if the maximum temperature in last hour was above certain threshold, maybe someone is looking at the motor. Okay, let's leave it like this. Number of decimal places, low limit alert. Let's actually now high limit warning of, let's say, 100 and high limit alert of 150. Yeah, you can change colors and so on. Continue. Now, what's the range? Because it's a gauge, so it needs to know what's the low and high range. So the lowest possible temperature for this will be 0. The highest possible temperature will be, let's say, 180. Doesn't matter what the values are. And as you can see, it grabbed the high limit warning and alert from the previous screen. Yeah, finish. So now it's 0. Let's go back to our runtime here, and it was connected to test type 1. Actually, it seems it was connected to test type 2, sorry. So, as you can see, the average of the last minute is 25 degrees. We would expect that in a minute it's going to change to 55. Or, what we can do, we can actually go back to configuration, and we could change this so that it's not the average, it's actually the last value. And this will show us the last value. For us, it's 55. If we change it, it could be 100. Yeah. And after a moment, it changes. And that's easy. Okay, so it would be exactly the same if you wanted to add some new widgets, maybe add some diagrams or some values. If you add the value, the nice thing is it calculates some statistics for you. So again, let's do the same thing. Temperature, value, 1 minute, yeah. Let's look again at temperature, yes. Average. Let's leave these and show statistics. If you show statistics, it will show you the max value, the min value, and the average. And if you are getting zeros here, okay, this means that there is no data for this period of time, here that you selected. And you could see also problems maybe if you go here. Okay, so if this is 0 for you, what might be the case is you might have the wrong settings of the time on your comfort panel. And if this is the case, just go on the comfort panel and change the date and time. I will show you how to do it, but what I didn't do, I didn't include anything to disable the runtime. So, well, yeah. Good old engineer's reset. Yeah. Okay, this guy is restarting now. Again, you only need to change the date and time if the date and time is incorrect. And you will see it very quickly because for this date, which is the current date for me, you will probably have no data if it's out of the box HMI for me. I just did a factory reset on it, but when I first started, I think it was set to something like February. So yeah, this should have kicked us out. Go again, smart client, wait for the panel to boot up. Okay, the panel is alive again. Let's try to connect to it. Okay, and now if we go to language, region, and formats, here we can set date and time. And here, just make sure that this is all set correctly. Or if you have an NTP server, you can select this option. Okay, back. Let's now start runtime again. And when the runtime starts, we should again start receiving the data. Okay, so it seems like we are up and running again, okay, and we still have access to our data. Yeah, there you go, everything changes as it was. Okay, so yeah, that's how you can very easily create dynamic dashboards. Now, just to show you maybe how the end result actually could look like, because this wasn't very impressive, I do have some dashboards that have a bit more data that are actually running on MindSphere. So MindSphere is a Siemens cloud platform, but you can find the very same apps on MindSphere as well. So it just depends on your use case, whether you run something on an edge device, locally, or maybe in the cloud. Okay, let's go to Performance Insight. And here we can see some dashboards that have data coming from drives. So we have drive temperature, drive DC link voltage. And if we look at the charts, we should see more historical data coming. So there you can see that the lowest value here was 3850, and maybe the highest value was over 39. We can see histograms, diagrams, all sorts of things. Now if we go back, we have other types of data as well, other types of widgets. So again, we have a quality OE of successful operations, we have a gauge, we have a distribution of safety trips, which tells us, okay, most of the things were opened at least once, but we can see that safety trip was triggered twice using DOR3. So yeah, we do see here that we can get all sorts of different gauges, different diagrams, and very easily put them on our dashboards. A very similar app to this is another app, an Edge app that is now available on the support site for download, and it's called Energy Manager. And Energy Manager on itself is a completely topic of its own. But again, let me just show you quickly what it looks like at least. Okay, so as you can see, Energy Manager is based on Performance Insight. You can see it immediately because the gauges, the widgets will be the same, but it has a bit more. So this is how it looks like now. It allows us to monitor different mediums. So not just electricity but maybe electricity, gas, water, all types of energy that might be used in a plant. It then allows us to run a bit more of analytics, look maybe duration curves to establish whether load management is something that we should be interested in. And it allows us also to do things like Sankey diagrams to see the flow of the energy, where it is being utilized, where it's coming from, where it is going, the heat maps to look at our production, and so on and so on. Yeah, this video was really meant to just show you how easy it is to turn your unified comfort panel into an Edge device and deploy an Edge app on it. And this Edge app for today was the Performance Insight, which is available on the support site for download. I think it's free till March. So if you're interested, just go there. The link is in the description below. Grab yourself the app, put it on your comfort panel, and add some value to the application that you're providing. If you have any questions or any requirements, suggestions on future videos, please let us know in the comments. Bye!